Hello and a very warm welcome to the Late Breaking F1 podcast presented by Harry Eade, Sam Sage and me, Ben Hocking, today reviewing the Mexican Grand Prix won by the Ferrari of Carlos Sainz from pole position with Lando Norris in second place and the other Ferrari of Charles Leclerc in third. That was something, wasn't it, Sam?
Hot and spicy. Yeah, that was really something. We had a great time with that. It had a bit of everything. We got the safe. Bert got another run out. Nice to see him stretch his legs. Good to see that.
You called him Bert?
Yeah, that's what I'm calling him now.
All right, okay, fine. Bert, as in Bert and Ernie?
Yes, that's his name now.
They're the medical and safety car drivers these days.
Yes, Bert, and the other one's called Ernie. Good. You know me in games, terrible. Yeah, we got the old ding-dong, a little ding-dong between our championship rivals. You know, Ferrari having a great old time. Colapinto hates everything. Perez, can't wait to get onto that topic. That's going to be fun. Sorry to all Perez fans if you're listening. But yeah, it gave us a bit of everything. It was a really, really good weekend of Formula One. And thank you. Thank you to the F1 gods, because we've got a lot to chat about.
I think Yuki Tsunoda entering turn one backwards set the tone.
The slow-mo replay of them going through warming, him going through backwards, it's so good.
Really, really lay out there. That's where this race is going. That's the level. So thank you, Yuki.
That was actually just the conclusion of his crash from the day before. He just didn't stop.
Still happening.
Yeah. You're right, Sam. We have a lot to talk about on today's episode. We've got Moment of the Race coming up. We've got Big Brain Strat, all the regulars that you'll get on a review episode. But we are going to start with the 20-second time penalty that was given to Max Verstappen. In truth, it was two penalties, two 10-second penalties for incidents with Lando Norris. We'll take them in turn, I think, because they were separate incidents and could be viewed separately. One of them may be correctly penalised, maybe the other one wasn't. We'll find out our views very shortly. Sam, start us off. The first incident into turn 4, very similar to what we saw at COTA, side-by-side, Norris on the outside being forced wide, Verstappen given a 10-second penalty in the first instance for that one. Good decision, bad decision. What are you thinking?
Well, in theory, this one actually even better for Max, because he stayed on the track at turn 4, whereas COTA last week and the incident that we're going to discuss later on, both of those instances, Max goes off track with the car that's attacking him. This happens to be Lando on all 3 occasions. Now, if I was writing the rules, this 10-second time penalty applied, for me, 100% makes sense and it's fair and it's the right call. But I genuinely believe that Max, who I thought handled it over the radio brilliantly with the iconic line of, quite impressive, to have a 10-second penalty. What a response!
It's like a challenge to him now.
He's like, all right, sure.
Yeah.
Go on, nice. Then. Or another one.
He's going to try and become the first driver to get a drive-through in about 15 years.
Yeah.
That'll be next race.
Do they exist anymore? Anyway, I respect that the stewards have finally put their foot down. What the difference is that's made them put their foot down on this, I don't know. I don't understand why the tables have turned. I don't understand what has suddenly occurred that means that this move is so different to any of the other moves that have taken place at COTA or anywhere else throughout the season where we've seen wheel-to-wheel racing. But yes, this was worth a 10-second penalty. He forced the driver off track. He left no room. All of the time you need with the space. It was aggressive. It was over the line. It was not correct. And as much as Max has been bending the rules to fit his favour, in how Formula One races, for me, that was too far. You left him no room and we got no racing. So, yes, correct. I'm happy that the penalty was applied. But I actually think that Red Bull and Max Verstappen can have every right to be a little bit frustrated that coming out of this, they're going to go, hang on a minute. Last week, we didn't get a penalty. Now we have got a penalty. Multiple instances before, there's been no penalties. Now it's a penalty. But a couple of years ago, there were... It's so inconsistent again. I'm sorry, stewards. I know you finally made the right choice, but you should be making it all along. I think they have a right to be a little bit annoyed. But the penalty was just, and I think, fair.
Harry, do you think it was a just penalty, or does Verstappen and the team have something to be annoyed about here?
Yeah, no, they have nothing to be annoyed about here. Fair penalty all round. The first move, which Martin Brundle called rude and cheeky, which I thought was
quite love our next album.
Yeah. Good name for an album. The first move, I deserved penalty. My issue with it here is that I think deserved penalty. I think the second move was absolutely outrageous. Should have been more than the first penalty. It was just the same penalty again. Should have been more because the crime was worse. as Brundle said, it was borderline. I still think he went beyond the line with move 1. Move 2 was just stupid. That should have been. Yeah, that should have been way more of a penalty than move 1 was. The fact that they got equal weighting there's a problem there for me. But the fact that they both got addressed and penalised was correct. And a hefty punishment at the end. 20-second penalty is... When was the last time we had that? Has anyone ever had that? I don't know.
It looked weird, didn't it, in the pits? Just
sat there.
Nothingness.
Yeah, for 20 seconds. That's a long time in F1. So
I love that they played the whole thing. They raw dogged it the whole way through. No cuts. Just 20, pure 20 seconds of no one moving.
Filming. Yeah, that's
what
very
I was
true.
really worried about for Red Bull's sake. You know the guy with the fan at the front? I was like, if your hand just slips and hits the car, like even grazes
Another penalty.
Yeah, right?
Fancy another one. Yeah, it was. These were both deserved. I probably would have gone a less of a penalty for move 1. I still don't agree with that. I agree that it was a penalty, but for what move 2 was, I don't agree that they were both 10 seconds worth. They should have at least maybe been 10 and then a 15 or 10 and 5. I don't know, but the what that message sends is not a good one because move 1 was hard and over the edge racing, deserved a punishment. Move 2 was just they're silly buggers. That wasn't even a move. It wasn't even a move. So that's my first issue I have with this. But the penalties as a whole, yes, agree.
Do you think the fact that he got the second penalty actually influenced the first one? Because let's just say only that first incident happens. I think there's a chance they only give him a 5-second penalty for that. And I don't know if they were subconsciously like influenced by something a bit more, I don't want to say deliberate, but it was far more over the edge, like the second one. I don't know if they maybe just, that the stewards might have just snapped and gone, 10 seconds. Had enough of this.
Back to Winnipeg. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe. But again, is that right? I don't know.
I'm not saying it's right. No.
Quite possibly. Because it's quite extreme versus what we've seen before. So you may well be right. But they still need to judge it by incident. I'd have been okay if they said 5 seconds for the first one. The second one was easily a 10-second. I could have gone worse, quite frankly. But yeah, that's maybe you're right. That's probably they just got influenced by the heat of the moment, which as a stewarding organisation, that's not good.
No. I'm of your opinion, Sam, that this was simultaneously, it should have been a penalty and shouldn't have been a penalty. At least the first incident I'm talking about here, because in theory, if there was nothing wrong with the Cota one, there was nothing wrong with this one either. So I think Red Bull and Verstappen can rightly say, why was that a penalty and the other one wasn't? Which the stewards could just turn around and say, oh, do you want a penalty for both of them then? Like, oh, no, we might step back actually. But you know, there is a legitimate question from Red Bull and Verstappen's perspective of, you know, what separates those two moves? Why I think it's a penalty is my understanding of not even an understanding of, but my opinion of what racing should be, is that if you are side by side into a corner, you should be giving at least one car's width on the outside of a corner, because I don't want to see these sort of moves shut down. I don't want to see the inside of a corner leading at the apex automatically means you can do whatever you want, because that'll lead to worse racing in the long run. And I'm just sick of the first at the apex argument. This is an argument that off air we collectively laughed at due to some incidents in the past, not related to F1, a Kyle Lawson specific incident where was it Indy?
Yeah,
he just arrives at the scene
sideways.
But he's first at the apex, so he can do whatever he wants.
The man doesn't have a brake pedal.
Yeah, so I'm sick of that rule. But yeah, I would penalise that first incident, but I can equally understand why Red Bull would turn around and go, that's the same as what happened last week. The second incident, good Lord Almighty, Max, will you stop it?
Terry? I'm very much with Harry here. That first one, for me, it's like 5 seconds if you're out of control and you don't leave the car space. Like you've locked up and the car's had to run wide to avoid you. 10 seconds if it was clearly intentional. But that was a war crime. What you've done there is you have broken the code of ethics and a man was put in danger. And Max Verstappen knew what he was doing, and Lando is still having to... He's basically hit the Atlantic Ocean at that point. He's driven so far wide on the corner. I can't believe he's only got the same penalty. 10, is that it? That's a drive-through. That was ridiculous. It's Senna Prost level of trying to kill each other at this point. It's too much.
I think it's a separate 10-second stop-go. Don't put this on your pit stop. You've got to come in. You've been a very naughty boy. You're Schumacher black flag at Silverstone 94, naughty boy. Come on. Come and serve.
Harry, can I just request that you be a little bit less British biased?
We are the British media, and we do make Max drive like that. So
very true. I would have gone a bit more harsh on that second incident because, you know, I don't really condone murder on a racetrack. Just
mate,
me.
fair. No, good call.
He was never making that corner in a million years.
The intention was never there, was it?
I don't want to respect that move specifically, but I do somewhat respect the approach of Max Verstappen of just, he has increasingly pushed the boundaries of what's okay. And I think he's finally found what's not okay. Like Kota, I think he was really trying it out. And here it's like, okay, I found the line. Maybe I shouldn't go that far again in the future. But in terms of the championship, we've made this point over the last week. I've been banging the drum on this. There's no one happier about this Verstappen and Norris championship fight than Ferrari right now. Because Charles Leclerc, for the second week in a row, all right, I'll take the position. No problem at all. And he's able to just skip off into second. Of course, he doesn't keep it, but we don't know that at the time. And Verstappen obviously gets the penalty, so it doesn't benefit him. But if he doesn't get a penalty or gets a less severe penalty, it's still a clever move by him because Ferrari have got a position on Norris. It's interesting.
Yeah, it's funny how, you know, we've had a double dose of Ferrari managing to get through on the competition and double podium again. I mean, Norris did well. We'll get onto it in a little bit, but it could have been another 1-2 for Fezza.
Also, for Verstappen, their argument of being at the apex first, that ruling, for that second incident, you can't count it because he didn't make the apex of that corner.
It wasn't an apex. He just drove like a straight line.
He was nowhere near it. So if you can't make the apex, then that shouldn't be allowed as a general
rule. Is it ruining wheel racing? Like generally?
This will change. There's no way this carries on because it's absolutely farcical.
I think it only ruins it if, like you say, they don't do anything about it, and it seems like they are going to.
I hope so. Give it 6 weeks, and they've forgotten their own rules, and they'll be back to nothing again.
Probably. 10 points gained in the Drivers' Championship from Lando Norris's perspective on Max Verstappen. So I believe that gap now sits at 47 points. Is that enough, Sam, at this point?
No, Max is like a blinder. He's only lost 10 points after all that. He had to serve 20 seconds. He was sat there for what felt like a decade in the pit lane. Lando's eating his heart out, trying to get every single fastest lap possible to catch Charles Leclerc. Gets past him. He's trying to catch Carlos Sainz. And Max has still only lost 10 points. This is the first time that Max Verstappen has properly dropped points to Lando Norris since, Hungary? And is that it? 10? We've got, 4 Grand Prix to go? Max Verstappen's going to need to lose probably a good 15 points a race for it to even be close for the title to come down to anything. So, no, he's playing a blinder. He can walk away happy again. After losing 20-second penalty, only 10 points lost. He's lost a point for every 2 seconds of penalty he's taken. I'm sure he's quite happy with that secretly. End of the day, end of the season, he still walks away Drivers' Champion. I
mean, Max can have that afternoon, that race again for the rest of the season, and he still wins. So it's not going to be enough.
He doesn't care.
If that is that and today in Hungary, probably his 2 worst races of the season. But
that one was intentional. That's the thing. He knew what he was doing. I would argue it wasn't even the worst race because he did it on purpose.
To be fair, his pace was actually, I don't think it was Red Bull in general, but his pace was pretty poor. But I just mean he can. Those are his 2 races of the season. He can have that on repeat for the rest of the season, and
even Austria, throw that in there. He still scored points, good points there, didn't he?
He can have that on repeat for the remainder of the season and still come out on top. So. Yeah, Norris needs more luck on his side than a 10-point swing. He needs a win and a Verstappen DNF for this to even be on. So unless that's fast forward a week from now, we're sat here. But he really needs that to happen ideally to get the championship. So I think like I say, Verstappen's on a day like today, he's done enough again.
It's not like I want bloodshed between these two drivers, but
I do.
After the race, right? Lando Norris in the moment is quite heated about what's happened, and rightly so. Man nearly died, of course. But after the race, he's interviewed, of course, because he was on the podium, and he basically kicks off with the line about how much he respects racing Max. I'm like, come on, man, give me something. Like, you should be annoyed.
I love you so much, Max. Don't not be my friend.
Of course, he can still respect Max and who he is and what he does. Like, that's fine. But we're still on the day of a race where he's taken him off twice in the space of like 4 corners. Be annoyed. But he wasn't. So
I want Schumacher storming down the pit lane with David.
Yes, come on.
That's what I want. I want engineers holding him back.
Let's have it. Come on.
Let's have it. Come on.
Delia Smith's getting in there. Come on.
Let's be having you.
Right, we'll take our first break on this review episode. On the other side, we're talking about Ferrari and Carlos Sainz's win. A highly impressive pole position from Carlos Sainz yesterday that myself and Sam discussed. A highly impressive win in the race today as well. Of course, lost the lead at the start to Max Verstappen, but got it back very quickly after the safety car made its way to the pit lane and didn't lose the lead from there. He was comfortably out in front. Even when Lando Norris got ahead of Charles Leclerc, it didn't look like his win was going to be under threat. And he took his 4th career win. Sam, that was pretty impressive. And a reminder, he's not going to be there next year.
Yeah, I say it on the qualifying review, and I'll say it again. You know, Red Bull didn't want him. Ferrari have gotten rid of him, and Williams have picked up an absolute goldmine of a driver. Sainz was head and shoulders the best driver this whole weekend. He was the best driver for the entirety of the weekend. Better than Leclerc in every department, out-qualified him comfortably, out-raced him comfortably. The margin that he built up back to Leclerc when Norris eventually got past him meant that he was comfortable. Doesn't matter what fastest laps Norris was putting in. You have to be doing under 1 minute to realistically get close to him. That's never going to happen, is it? He did everything he needed to do. He was commanding the strategy. You heard him being like, give me one more lap for tyre length. He knew what was going on at every single point. Yes, he lost the league at the start, but the Mexican start is such a kind of throw it up in the air and hope you get through cleanly, as we saw with Gasly, Albon and Tsunoda having that collision. He could have come out there much worse than being second place. So the fact he snatched back the lead pretty much within a lap once the safety car had pulled back in, brilliantly done. I really can't fault him, other for the fact he did lose the lead off the start, barely, which is a minor fault. He was absolutely phenomenal. Carlos Sainz is such an asset. He is the smooth operator. And Hamilton, I think, actually drove quite well this race. He bested George Russell. And it's probably one of his better performances as of late. But when you've got the guy winning when Charles Leclerc doesn't, I bet some of the team are questioning, why did we get rid of him? Why is he going? And you heard it in his post-race interview. I wanted one more before I left Ferrari because he knows it's going to be an uphill battle when he goes to Williams, and they know they're not there yet. It's a long-term project. So I'm glad he's got at least one more. But the last 2 Grand Prix, he's been phenomenal. He's shown what he's made of. So James Vowles has played a blinder picking up Carlos Sainz. It's a fantastic signing.
How are your thoughts on Sainz's performance?
Filthy, mainly for his dive bomb. It wasn't even. I won't call it a dive bomb because it was just sick
Great
filth.
move.
You know what though? He left space on the outside as well.
Shockingly, makes a good move. In my book, that's a good move. Absolutely nailed him, drilled him.
Oh, okay.
Well, not like that. You never know. But it was an excellent move by Sainz, and yeah, like you said, he's been the class act this weekend. Just again, I don't want to underrate Carlos Sainz at all, because I think he's criminally underrated. But sometimes he just has a day of days, a weekend of weekends. That was this weekend. There was no one else that was better than him. He lost the lead off the start, yeah, but it's Mexico, and that often happens. To be honest, it went probably as well as he could have hoped it did. He only lost 1 place. He's the first driver to have won off pole at Mexico for the first in 8 years, I think I saw, just before we started recording, which is
Max Verstappen managed to lead again, but didn't end up winning. I think that's the first Ferrari victory at Mexico. Ben, you might be right on this, since 1990, 34 years.
Big Alan, yeah, said it on the grid.
Yeah, it's a long time, isn't it?
Big Alan, or little Alan. But yeah, it was, I think it went as well, the start went as well as it could have done, to be honest, considering it's Mexico. And yeah, once he absolutely he did him into turn one, did Verstappen into turn one, he did not look back. And I know he stressed out a bit about the pace of Leclerc, but to be honest, he always seemed like he had it in hand. Leclerc got a bit closer, and then Sainz would pull away again. So very convincing from Sainz. I'm with you, Sam, on the. It really depends what sort of Hamilton we get next year. And this is for a complete different topic, but I bet there are a couple of people in the team that are thinking, maybe.
That noise was spectacular.
Yeah, maybe this wasn't the right call. But this has always been the cruel reality of the Hamilton to Ferrari move, is that they weren't getting rid of Carlos Sainz because he's been rubbish. They just had Hamilton on the table, and unfortunately Sainz was the one that's had the fall. And it's not because Sainz has been crap. Sainz has been excellent. So yeah, it's the harsh reality. But yeah, an excellent win from him today.
Yeah, and that's the thing you have to remember is at the beginning of the season, how many drivers are there on the grid that Ferrari would have taken to give up Carlos Sainz? I would imagine the list is Lewis Hamilton, Max Verstappen, and Lando Norris.
Even that last one, it was.
That's a questionable one.
At that point, was questionable.
Yeah, and I don't think they would have taken anyone else. That includes Russell, Alonso. I think they would have stuck with Sainz. Great job from him today. And if you look back at I believe this is his fourth win. If you look back at his 3 previous wins, he won the British Grand Prix a couple of years ago. But I think on that day, Charles Leclerc was the quicker Ferrari, and it just so happened that Sainz had the better strategy. Singapore, a very impressive win, but he was holding off drivers right at the end of that Grand Prix. And of course, Australia earlier this year, Verstappen retired very early on. This was probably his best win of the lot, because what were the mitigating circumstances here? He got pole position. He had 2 laps yesterday that were good enough for pole. He got that excellent move done on Max Verstappen into turn 1, and he never looked back. Charles Leclerc, there were a few times where he got within like 5 seconds. Didn't really look like he was under that much pressure. And even Lando Norris late on, he wasn't going to become a factor. This was brilliantly managed. It did require some impressive tyre management, because not all drivers nailed that out there today, some of which we'll get onto, I'm sure. But Carlos Sainz out front did an excellent job. And look, if you look at the top 3 in the Constructors Championship, we keep going back to that. At the moment, and I'm talking the last couple of races here, there's only one of the 3 lineups that can be really happy about what they're doing. And it's the only one of the 3 that at present is not going to be the same next year. Sainz and Leclerc today, even with Leclerc dropping that position to Lando Norris, they're picking up 40 points. They're first and third in this race. Whereas you've got McLaren finishing second and the other driver fighting to get back into the points. And of course, Verstappen having a difficult day, and Perez being, again, a non-factor when it comes to points. So 29 points separating Ferrari and McLaren in the Constructors' Championship with a few races to go. Again, we've still got 2 sprints. They've got to feel like they've got something of a chance, because not only have they got a lineup that's working well, they've got a car that's working well at the moment. Charles Leclerc obviously looked like for a long time in this race that he was going to complete that 1-2 finish that they haven't had back-to-back 1-2 finishes in a very long time, over 15 years, Sam. Didn't quite end up going that way. Still a double podium. Should Charles Leclerc be disappointed?
Yeah, I think he'll be disappointed with this. 3rd place is still strong. He's still moved up 4th to 3rd. But when you see your teammate, and again, no disrespect to Carlos Sainz, but Charles Leclerc is usually the lead driver of the pair. So if Carlos Sainz is able to extract that pace, manage those tyres that well, deliver what he did in qualifying, which is obviously usually Charles' strong point as well, it was disappointing to see Charles so far behind. I'm sure Charles also like a change of underwear for the many poos that he probably produced.
I think he's still pooing.
Honestly.
Yeah.
Oh, crikey.
And fair enough too.
You could still hear all of Mexico gasping at how close he was to the wall. But yeah, it was a valiant battle, I think, on a set of tyres that he had maybe run into the ground a little bit. It just wasn't his weekend. He wasn't on his usual A game, but if he's not on his usual A game and he's still coming home in 3rd place, and he's still beating Max Verstappen, he still completely outdoes Piastri. Perez is nowhere to be seen. Both the Mercedes are comfortably behind. There's only 2 drivers in front of him, and one of them is his teammate. It's really not a bad day. This is the kind of time, we know when we talk about how champions have kind of, damage mitigation, damage limitation. This is what Charles Leclerc did today. 3rd place on a bad day for Charles Leclerc and a Ferrari that throughout the season has been a little bit topsy-turvy. I think it's a very solid result. He does what he needs to for the team. I think we all know that the drivers was never really in a proper conversation. And so that's obviously well and truly gone. But for the constructors, this is good enough to keep them motoring. Another one like this in a week's time, they're right there. They're only a few points behind at that point. So he will be disappointed. But overall, this is not a bad day for the Ferrari team. I think Ferrari themselves will go away and feel quite happy with how that's happened.
What are your thoughts on Leclerc's race, Harry?
Yeah, I think he'll be disappointed. But he even said in his post-race interview, he's just not been there this weekend. So I think coming away with a P3, which was almost a P2, I don't think he can be too massively disappointed. He knows that the Drivers' Championship is not a thing, but for constructors-wise, this was a big day for them. They've obviously now overtaken Red Bull, and they keep having days like that, then the win could be on for them. So Leclerc, personally, I think will be disappointed, but from a team point of view, I don't think he can be. I think he made the most of his race. It was clear that he was struggling more with his tyres than Sainz was. As you say, that save was, I know he had to make the save, but the save was ridiculous. I don't think I've seen one like that for a long time. Honestly, as soon as it started to go, I was like, well, that's in the wall. That's going in the wall. I'm not entirely sure how he saved that. So fair play, kept it out of the barriers. Obviously lost P2 to Norris, but yeah, nabbed the fastest lap at the end as well. So, and that was due to the gap that he'd built up over the Mercedes, who were having their own little ding dong battle. It's the second time ding dongs come out. Ban on that phrase for the rest of the podcast, please.
Don't just limit it to the rest of this podcast.
Life.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
I'm a ding dong man, and it's staying around.
Shut up.
No, I'll mute you. But yeah, I think he'll be disappointed, but he shouldn't be too much, to be honest.
I feel like he wasn't at one with the car like from the off this weekend.
No.
Even with qualifying on yesterday, he put together an all right performance, obviously, but there were multiple times on key laps where that car did not look very secure. So I think Carlos Sainz, very simply put, was the quicker driver. Whether he got the setup right, whether he was just better this weekend, I don't know. But from the off, Carlos Sainz just seemed like the better of the two Ferraris, in which case is third place the worst result in the world? Not exactly. But if you look at the few different ways this race could have gone for Charles Leclerc, he will be a bit disappointed that, I don't know how concerned he is by the Norris battle for second in the Drivers' Championship, but that could have gone very differently. Like if Norris and Verstappen, rather than nearly take each other out, actually do take each other out, and Charles Leclerc is able to get ahead of, his car was in theory quick enough in that a Ferrari won the race, suddenly that could swing the championship quite a lot. And ultimately it didn't go that way for him. So it was an okay performance from Charles Leclerc. He'll be, I think whenever your teammate pulls off a fairly comfortable win, you're going to be disappointed that you're not second. But I just think that second stint, tyre management towards the end of the race, he didn't do as good a job as Sainz did. Shall we do Driver of the Day?
The verdict is in. You're the driver of the day. You're the driver of the day. You're good at driving.
Sam, who was good at driving?
I like that you come to me first, Ben, because I do get the easy option. Carlos Sainz was the driver of the day. As I already stated, pretty much a flawless weekend. And people might say, well, he didn't never get the fastest lap. The amount of people that stopped right at the end there and put on softs, it was never reasonable to expect him to get the fastest lap. He did everything right, and even the start, which was tricky where he lost it, he reclaimed it back with such ease. So Carlos Sainz for me was a clear winner for driver of the day.
For me, Carlos Sainz, great performance and very much worthy of the second best driver of the day.
Oh no.
Kevin Magnussen, what an effort. He demolished his teammate, who I don't think Hülkenberg did a poor job, by the way. He's in the points as well. Kevin Magnussen from the off this weekend has been on it. Qualifying, great. And he beat Oscar Piastri. And I know Piastri is making his way back through the field, but every other midfield driver has been beaten by Oscar Piastri today. Not Kevin Magnussen. I think this 2-race stretch has been Magnussen's best of the season by far. My guy, do it in the first 2 races of the year. You've left it far too late.
You've already been replaced. Why have you done it now?
Mag's replacing himself.
He's making a late push for the Red Bull seat, I reckon.
Oh my God, imagine.
Oh, the Saints.
You know what? I'd pay a lot of money to see that.
Max Verstappen and Kevin Magnussen in the same team. Good Lord.
No.
Would both of them survive the year?
You still have a race, mate. That's it. One race and you're done.
But in all seriousness, I was seriously impressed. Carlos Sainz was great and would be easily driver of the day if it weren't for Magnussen for me. But yeah, got to give it a K-Mag. Harry.
You've said all my points, Ben. Kevin, goddamn box office Magnussen. It's like a different driver versus the rest of the year. And like you say, Austin was actually really good, but they fluffed up his strategy. Yeah, this was highly impressive. And I know Verstappen had 20 seconds worth of penalties to contend with, but he was only 4 seconds off him at the end of the race.
The gap was getting smaller. Yeah. That gap was coming down.
He was chomping after him. So, very impressive. Sainz, absolutely, definitely a worthy winner as well because of all the above reasons. But yeah, I was going to go for K-Mag too.
Let's move on to worst driver of the day.
Get in the bin, 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 bin.
This could be very short.
Worst driver of the day. Bin, bin, bin. Worst driver of the day. Bin, bin, bin. You suck at driving.
Sam, you've done a wonderful job of digging your grave here, sir, because I seem to recall you less than 2 minutes ago saying that you love going first in these segments. Who's worst driver of the day, Sam?
No. I still stand proudly on that step. And most people might think, well, surely Max Verstappen. Well, I actually disagree because Max Verstappen, although picking up 20 seconds of penalties, he did it for the right reasons and with intent. As much as that's very naughty, he knew what he was doing.
He also scored points.
He did also score points. Unlike a certain other Red Bull driver, Sergio Perez, and myself and Harry have done pretty much the same tweet. So I'm going to go out and read the exact same thing here because I think it summarizes things so well. The weekend itself was sublime. Out in Q1, brilliant. He misses his start box. Brilliant. He then crashes into another RB driver. Brilliant. He then runs Lance Stroll off the road. Fantastic. He moans non-stop about everything, and he's going so slow that he can watch the race on the big screen. He then attempts the fastest lap at the end, and he's 1 second away from what Charles Leclerc has managed to do. Finishes P17. Shh. Silencing the haters. Sergio Perez. That was abysmal.
Wow, a lot of different contenders raised by Sam, but he does eventually go for Perez. Harry, who have you got?
Yeah. Sergio, mate, you've had better days. Do you know what? The way this race started, I mean, the parking in your pit box in Brazil and not Mexico, that was a good start. And obviously, they said it was a false start, and he was like, "No, it wasn't." They're like, "It was a great start." Come on.
He still argued the point about the pit box, though.
He's like, "No, it wasn't." Nah,
delusional.
Get that to be checked. Yeah, we've all checked it, mate. You weren't in the pit box.
Check yourself before you wreck yourself, mate.
That aside, it was a good start, mainly because he started about 5 meters in front of everyone else.
He's already ahead of those 5 cars. He's getting alongside Max on the front row.
He started at turn 1.
But the way the race was shaping up for him, he was sort of chopping through the field. I was like, this is kind of Sergio Perez Racing Point vibes. I was like, oh, okay. I didn't think he was going to win the race. Well, I did, obviously. But we'll get on to that. But I was thinking this is shaping up. And then he met Liam Lawson and the hatred began. And then from then on, everything went to pure poo. And terrible day. Terrible weekend, but terrible day. And to top it off with the swing and a miss of going for the fastest lap. I mean, to be honest, Red Bull, why did you bother?
His car's got a hole in it.
Yeah,
In the right place.
They did it after Leclerc pit as well. I was like, well, you're not going to beat that unless Leclerc falls off again. It's never going to happen. It's just embarrassing. You just made him be last for no reason. Sorry, Sergio. One's good. Also, shout out. I wasn't. There was differing opinions on commentary, but Yuki, mate, are you going to win at the first corner? Why are you diving down the outside when it's quite clear? No space.
We'll get into that as well after the break, by the way.
No, I want to talk about that.
Yeah. My worst driver of the day was Sergio Perez.
Oh, okay.
It's a shock.
Well, how'd you get to that conclusion?
There's 3.
Our next segment is on Sergio Perez, so I'm probably going to leave it there because there's going to be more chat about him. But needless to say, he was the worst driver of the day. We'll take our second break on the other side. Sergio Perez. Okay, welcome back, everyone. As alluded to before the break, we are going to get into some of the key elements of Sergio Perez's Grand Prix. Sam, let's start at the start because that didn't go very well. We've already touched on this, obviously. 5-second time penalty for not being in the box. It was a great start, great launch, should I say, from Sergio Perez, but ultimately cost him a 5-second penalty. Your thoughts on that? Great
start because he's starting in front of the 5 drivers he was meant to overtake, so he just starts in front of them. I'm baffled by this. You think, you're at your home Grand Prix, and after qualifying, by the way, the worst Red Bull qualifying performance before this one was Daniel Ricciardo in P7. So go back another 10 places, and now Sergio Perez holds that title. Shocking. It's the bizarre defense. I don't know. He comes out and says, out of all places for it to happen, it's happened here. And then you think, right, I need to make amends for this. So you park in the next box in front of you, basically. You've got half the car hanging over the front end. And he does get a good start. But you argue that, okay, he got a good start because he's on a completely different part of the racetrack to everyone else and is able to maybe get a better launch. It's a debate that you can have. 5 seconds for that. Is that the norm? That feels very low.
The norm is either a 5 or a 10-second
Great. Either a 5 or 10. Cool. Yeah. What's the difference? Why do we get
Did they go 5 for misplaced parking and 10 for an actual jump? But I made that up.
I'm not sure.
It feels like
Alonso had one in Saudi last year, didn't he? He was out of his grip spot and they gave him 5.
Yes.
But that's the last one I can think of.
Fine. 5 still feels small. But I can understand it. And then, he ends up having the world's biggest beef with Liam Lawson, which I love, by the way, because Liam Lawson, right, he's got the dog in him. He's from down under. He's got that right attitude. He is perfect for Red Bull family mentality. Sticking middle fingers out of cars, driving right up against people, not afraid to put his car on the line when it mattered. And whether you think the defense or attack of that move where they had contact was on one driver or the other, Lawson wasn't taking any ball from Sergio Perez. No Red Bull, that's for sure. The only thing he might be taking is that guy's seat come the end of the season. The defense was terrible. The drive was terrible. He didn't put up a good move across the entire race. Then he moaned constantly about how he had damage, which arguably he shouldn't have put himself in the danger zone for that. It was just I've gone into it on the worst driver performance, so I won't bring up all the same points again. But this was retirement worthy. Genuinely, I wouldn't be shocked if they've made the decision after this Grand Prix, and that is game over for Sergio Perez's career at the end of 2024.
How are your thoughts on the start?
He certainly started his car. There's no denying.
The engine got turned on.
Just a bit. And again, I referenced Alonso did this in Saudi, although his was slightly different. He was slightly to the right of it. He didn't go.
Yeah, it
wasn't lined up properly. It's a bit different, but Sergio, mate, you were. I don't know. You argue with this, and I respect the hustle almost. That you're just in complete denial that you've got this wrong.
He's in the Panama Canal, mate.
Yeah, he was. Like I said, he was in Brazil. He started his car. He's that far ahead. And again, this is just a sign, I think, of the pressure of this weekend, the pressure of everything getting to him. That's that kind of mistake. I bet if you go back through Sergio Perez's career, he's never done that once, and this weekend he does it, and that's just, I think, the sign of the times he's in. So. Yeah, obviously that was good. The actual start itself, he wasn't wrong. It was a great start, and he made up quite a few places, and that's why I said the early part of that race, 5-second penalty aside, actually looked like it was shaping up pretty well until he met Liam Lawson, who will now have a what you call it, a thingy doll that will stick needles into. But that was probably the highlight of his race. The highlight of his race was his start, which speaks volumes.
The highlight of his race was something he got penalised for.
Yeah, that's what I mean. that's how bad the race went.
Yeah. It wasn't good.
No, it's great, mate. He said it's a great start.
That's the worst thing. It was a good start. I'm convinced even if he started where he should have done, he would have picked up at least a few of those positions. He had a good start, and it was ruined by not being all the way into that pit box. The thing is, and you question the penalty, Sam, of whether it should have been 5 seconds or not. If you asked Sergio Perez before the first pit stop, would you rather have taken the 5-second penalty or a worse start? It would have made sense to take the 5-second time penalty, because I didn't noted down here, lap 18, he was 7.5 seconds in front of Oscar Piastri, who he started alongside, which is obviously more than 5 seconds. So the launch was pretty good. So he might have picked up a few of those spots anyway, but actually his start plus 5 seconds was probably still net better than him just staying where he would have done as sort of Oscar Piastri did. But yeah, it's just, like you said, Harry, he's probably never done this in however many races he's done. It's just awful timing more than anything, but it really set the tone for what was a difficult day. What were your thoughts on the Lawson interactions, Harry?
Yeah, Lawson knows how to race, doesn't he? Which I think is probably quite clear now, and it was all fair. That whole. I mean, to be honest, if I was Sergio, I probably wouldn't have sent it up the inside of that turn. Why are you doing that?
You've had a bad enough day. Why have you bothered?
Why are you doing that? So on that point, but fair enough to Lawson for not just turning in on him, because a lot of drivers would have just turned in. So saw him coming, gave him a room. Perez decides to then squeeze him to the absolute outside of the track. Lawson doesn't let it go and fights back and takes the place. Perez can have no. I know he calls him an idiot, but Perez can have no complaints about that, because it was hard but fair racing that, and like I said, Perez shouldn't have gone for it in the first place. I have no bones of that, and I'm not going to say it's anyone's fault. But if I was with a bit of circumspect, if I was Sergio, I would have left that one alone for that lap.
I think pride and pressure got the better of him.
Yeah, like expectation that he was going to jump out the way, and why would he? Because he's coming after your seat, boy.
Because I think he was embarrassed that it didn't go to plan, and then he reacted badly, and you spiral from. We've all those situations where you've done something a bit silly in front of people, and you're like, oh, I'm a bit embarrassed, and then you get a bit annoyed at yourself, and then you act badly again, and you're like, oh, I should have just shut my mouth the first time round.
And then you try and take Lance Stroll off the road. That's what happens.
Right?
Yeah.
We all do it.
Yeah. Happens to the best
We all
of us.
take Lance Stroll off the road.
Yeah.
It happens all the time.
You get embarrassed and then you're like, oh, have it, Lance.
Come here, Lance. I'm going to take you off the road.
I think him being that riled up about Lawson is worse than the incident. Like, the incident was clumsy, and like you said, probably he'd have got by him. Like, he just needed to back off. He was making solid progress through the field. I think the fact that he was so riled by him in the first instance to call him an idiot, that's not great and shows that this guy might be getting under your skin. But to then, however many laps later, call him an idiot again because he's seen some debris and he's watching the replay of Lawson in a separate incident, and to comment on that, it's not a good look. You're in a Red Bull, like you've got to have moved on by then, but he's still fixated on this incident that happened laps and laps before. So I actually think, like, the way he looks coming out of this is almost worse than the conduct of his racing. It was, and I mentioned this before we started recording, when Lawson got by Perez later in the Grand Prix, which made sense because Lawson had fresh tyres and Perez had like 20-lap-old mediums. It made sense that Lawson was quicker at that point. But it was the way that Perez, who would never have had a chance of getting by Lawson again, was like shaping up to the inside of turn one, like, I might go for it here. Like, you could tell he's agitated, because the sensible thing would have been just to get in the slipstream and carry on with your race. It's done and dusted at that point. I don't know. I haven't had enough time to formulate my full opinion on this, because Perez has had a lot of questionable races, and I've always felt like there has been some good stuff there that's kept Red Bull interested and keeps his contract going. This race might be the point where it becomes untenable in the future, and it could be the one.
I was going to ask you, do you think that this might be the moment where it's tipped over the other side?
It might be. And again, there have been some bad performances where I haven't felt that's the case. This might be the one. I don't know.
Harry, what do you think?
I know it's all rumours, but at least they kept Perez in the car for the rest of the year so they could do the Mexican GP, because it was really worth it.
Thank you. Glad the crowd turned up for his 17th place finish.
Yeah, I mean, this could well be the undoing, but I think I would have said the undoing was already done. But yeah, there could be the final nail in the coffin. Helmut Marko's made comments, so yeah, that's probably here we go.
Did you hear that about what Perez's dad said?
Yeah, but he's going to be a world champion.
Yeah, Helmut Marko's like, I respect the father's optimism, but
Optimistic father.
Big savage by Helmut Marko. It's okay.
Oh no. Sticking with Liam Lawson slightly because he had a bit more contact with Colapinto later on. Harry, did you have a view on that incident?
This one was I was okay with it. It was clumsy again, but I don't know. So Lawson sort of runs Colapinto out of road. Colapinto comes back on. He bumps over the curb a bit, smacks into his front wing. I'm just a bit like, you're both young, you're both silly. Do you know what? You've both learned a lesson here. Don't do that again. I'm wasn't too mad at it. Obviously, it compromised Lawson, but he sort of initiated the squeeze in the first place. So, I had no massive issues with this one. I said Colapinto was just battling everyone today. I know he didn't pit for ages, but just seemed to be every time there's a replay, it's like, oh, Colapinto's having a fight again with Piastri for about the half of the race.
Any read on that incident, Sam?
It was very scrappy, wasn't it? And the kind of battle that you don't really need when you're two drivers fighting outside of the points. You know how we spoke so fondly of Alonso knowing what battle to fight and what battle to leave. This felt like one of those where you think neither of you are doing well right now. The car isn't really working how you need it to. You need to move forward together. You know, realize which one of you is quicker and sit in the slipstream and make it work, because I know they can't communicate it and it's very difficult to do so. They're F1 drivers. They want to fight for everything, but they need to be fighting for the points, not fighting each other back in 12th, 13th place at this point. I don't think I put blame particularly on one driver or the other. They both had a go, pushing each other wide. They ended up not giving each other room, and it showed a lack of experience from both drivers there. So racing instinct, they both got their comeuppance, I think. But it just felt scrappy and not needed for a place that gave them absolutely nothing come the end of the Grand Prix.
Very, very quick question, just because you've mentioned Fernando Alonso. Did anyone, TV direction, commentator, anyone realise he retired?
Yeah, Sky talked about it for a moment.
Did they?
Yeah, Martin Brundle said, he's got that lovely 400th race helmet on. It's a shame he won't be able to finish the Grand Prix or something.
He also retired from his 300th GP, so he's just not allowed to do those.
Can't wait for 500.
He'll still be here.
It will happen. No doubt about it.
4 seasons' time.
Yeah, I think the Colapinto Lawson incident, just to close that one off, was unnecessarily scrappy. I've got to be honest with both drivers this weekend. I wasn't particularly impressed by either of them. They fell below my expectations. But the incident was, Lawson's complaining at Colapinto not leaving him any room approximately 2 seconds after he doesn't leave him any room. I don't have much sympathy for either, to be honest.
Yeah, either play the game or shut up.
Yeah. The other incident we should just cover off quickly is that first corner incident between Alex Albon and Yuki Tsunoda that caused both of their retirements. Sam, your view on that one?
Yeah, no, I think Yuki Tsunoda had every right to be there. I actually think it is a really unfortunate accident. There's a lot of cars going into a very small place. Pierre Gasly, and I don't think he's at fault for this, but he's trying to find himself some room, so he comes over slightly. I don't think Gasly realizes there's a third car on the other side of him where Albon is kind of right next to him. So Albon shuffles over, Gasly shuffles over. Albon shuffles over some more, Gasly shuffles over some more. You see from Albon's point of view that it just pincers. I think Gasly's so lucky not to come away with any damage from that scenario. And Yuki just comes off by far. I mean, obviously Albon retires as well, but Yuki by far the worst, being thrown into the, catapulted into the wall there. The expression as you brought up earlier, you can't win the race on turn one, but you can lose it. It did feel risky, but equally, I don't think there's anything wrong with what he was trying to do. I appreciate he made a good start. He was trying to take full advantage of it. It just didn't pay off.
Harry?
I didn't disagree that it was unfortunate. I'm not saying this is anyone's fault. It's just turn one. I think you see at the start, Albon has a couple of little tried to take a couple of chunks out of him on the straight already.
Bumped tyres a couple of times,
and I just think, and again, it's just like the natural jockeying. He's got Gasly next to him anyway, so he's like trying to maneuver that. I think a different driver, Fernando Alonso or Lewis Hamilton, they're probably just backing out of that one before they get to that. If it paid off, I'd be praising him, obviously. And sometimes it's those risks you've got to take, but just given the context of where we are right now, given the crapness of Sergio this race, could have really done with a good result. And I think he'll look back and go, oh, I maybe should have backed out of that. So I don't blame him. I don't blame him for like the incident. It was just unfortunate. I just think he probably could have been a bit more circumspect about it.
Yeah, I'm aligned with that. Mercedes finished 4th and 5th. Quick word on them, Sam.
It's as good as it's going to get for them, I think. I think they were beneficial that Max Verstappen picked up some penalties, just a few, if you haven't noticed. I also think they were quite lucky that Perez was god-awful and Piastri was unable to make his way back through the field properly after a really bad qualifying. 5th and 6th was lucky, good, all right. You know, the best they could have hoped for. Hamilton and Russell had the world's longest battle. It went on forever. And eventually Hamilton saw his way get through. But it just shows you how evenly matched I think those two are when it comes down to it. On certain days, where Hamilton in his career and where Russell is on his career, they really show very similar qualities and are able to produce very similar results. And it just happened to tip the way of Lewis Hamilton today. I know Russell had a very slight bit of damage on the front wing, and maybe that caused some of the pace to be lost. But it happens like that. It goes that way sometimes. 2 points gained for Hamilton over Russell. This time, the gap between them goes up to 12. That Mercedes battle, as we've said so many times, there's a reason why they're one of the best lineups, because they're so easily able to take it to each other. And very clean, very respectful. That's how you race your teammate, right? It was harsh, but they kept it on the track. It was a great fight. I think they could come away from that and shake each other's hands and go, fair enough.
Yeah, it's a difficult one to tell in terms of that front wing damage, how much of an impact it had on George Russell. I would lean towards it did have an impact just based on Russell being the faster car in qualifying and Russell being the faster car in the first part of this race. It wasn't until the second part of this race that Hamilton was the quicker driver. But again, tough to tell. I do have 1 point to make on Mercedes very quickly. They were over a pit stop away from the top 3, as evidenced by the fact that Charles Leclerc could take that fastest lap away from, he could have that attempt, and they were comfortably clear of Verstappen. That was over 10 seconds. So they were in the middle of nowhere. You've got one car running a Silverstone spec in George Russell when they were good. And you've got Lewis Hamilton running the current spec in Mexico. Do you know what would have been really useful for Mercedes? To have them run their own races and collect some goddamn data. Instead, they are having the most needless battle of all time and not collecting any info. They should have just, I know George Russell's there next year and Hamilton isn't. They really should have just gone, give Hamilton the place, let's collect some data and find out what's going on with our car, why it was working a few months ago and why it's not working now. Because, you know, that would be quite useful.
The most damning part of the whole thing is that either spec is over a whole pit stop slower than the rivals they were beating in the summer break. It's not good news.
Yeah, not great. Anything you want to say on Merc, Harry?
I just wrote down on my notes, at least they had fun.
Having a good time.
It's often forgotten having fun in F1, so
a fiesta.
I appreciate you bringing up the point.
They had a lovely time.
Should we do some big brain strat?
Let's do it.
Bob, we're gonna need you to box for wets. What? It's not even raining out. What are you talking about? Yeah, and Bob, if you get a chance, let your teammate pass you. What? He crashed out. He's not even in the race.
Harry, what have you got?
My big brain strat, which I've now momentarily forgotten, is... Oh no, what was it?
Your big brain strat is not remembering your big brain strat.
Oh no, I had it. Williams and Colapinto. I respect the hustle, but also big respect to Colapinto. I know it was only ever going to be a one-stop behind the safety car, but man was just out there in the hard tyres waiting, goal hanging for a safety car. If that had come off, then it would look really good. In the end, it didn't, but I enjoyed it mainly because he stayed out for so long, had a battle with everyone, then came out of the pits and was as fast as the leaders, which is just banter. Quite frankly.
You're right. That's just Colapinto from now on. Gets knocked out in Q1, starts on the hard tyre, hopes for a safety car, doesn't get one, tries to get the fastest lap.
Yeah, rizzes everyone up.
I love that. Sam?
We've already mentioned it, but Sergio Perez pitting for the fastest lap with a broken car is sensational banter. I loved it so much.
And that was a close run thing. My big brain strat has to go to the Sky commentary team talking about how, Mercedes are over a pit stop away. Maybe Charles Leclerc should try the fastest lap. And then Charles Leclerc going to the team, yeah, we should probably think about the fastest lap here. Because again, I can just have visions of Ferrari going, 30 seconds. How many seconds to do pits?
Extra
less than 30. Let's do it.
The worst part is that Ferrari, I think, in all of the F1 world, were the last to realise that they should get the fastest lap point. Everyone said it, and then they go, "Oh, Charles said it. We should definitely do that thing." Great, cheers.
It's real. I'm not taking anything away from Ferrari from the past 2 races because they've been excellent, but it's been real fortunate that like any other competition has just been being stupid for most of the time.
That's how Ferrari will win one day.
Yeah, it's just,
Because we out stupid.
I'm sorry. If Ferrari win a championship because they're not stupid, I'm out of here.
It's not that they're not stupid. They're just the least stupid.
Yeah.
Of the
Sure,
other
that
teams.
counts. How have we got to that point?
good.
I'm going to ask this question rhetorically because otherwise the answer would be no. But shall we review bold predictions?
No.
That was rhetorical, mate. Can't say no.
We're going to do it anyway.
It's a rhetorical no.
My bold prediction lasted a long time. I said that both Williams would be in the top 8. That was over after Check's number 1 lap.
One straight,
One
mate.
straight. They didn't even get to turn 1.
There. Sam, yours was also Williams related. You said that Colapinto would be inside the top 6.
He was holding on for that safety car, and boy, was I as well. Really, fingers were crossed.
It still wasn't going to happen, was it?
I reckon it was close. It was on the cards.
Oh, sure.
Not sure what card it was on, but technically,
Yeah.
no points.
Not quite. Harry, your bold prediction was that Sergio Perez would win the Grand Prix. Now, you also predicted this last year, and he retired on the first corner. And I've got no idea how, but I think you're more wrong this year.
If he's still there next year, I'm going to triple down.
Go on, triples down.
To clarify, Harry thought that Perez would beat everyone, and excluding retired cars,
Beat no one.
Perez beat no one.
Good. That's a swing and a miss.
We've had some real shockers on bold predictions. That is up there, I think, as a trio.
So somehow last year Mexico was also terrible, and we've been more terrible again. We just can't predict. We can't predict much, but Mexico especially terrible.
I mean, between us as a team, we've had about 6 predictions right all year, so that's bad.
but this isn't even close
No.
in any sense.
No.
All right, we've got one more segment on today's review episode. On the other side of this break, it's Moment of the Race. Welcome back, everyone. Moment of the Race. We'll get into our Discord submissions very shortly, but before we get there, we'll each give our own submissions. So, Sam, kick us off. What was your Moment of the Race?
I did have one that came before the Grand Prix, and that was Carlos Sainz overtaking Lando Norris on foot and then deciding just to wave the hand back and give a light little tap to Lando's Frankenbeans, which saw him in great despair at the start of the interview. You know,
I know what you mean, but
Yeah.
I'm questioning the terminology.
What else do I call it on the podcast?
Anything.
What a Frankenbeans legend.
On track. I don't know, there was loads. I think I might have to bring up Sergio Perez's fastest lap attempt again. It was that
Oh, you
funny.
can't do him like that.
Can't do it twice.
You can't do him like that.
The fight, I know it was ridiculous and audacious and stupid, but the battle with Norris and Verstappen was just great watching. It was awful, but I bloody loved it.
Harry, Moment of the Race.
I've got so many to choose from here.
Many.
We've already mentioned this one, but Nope, it was a great start, which floored me. I burst out laughing when he said that. Because factually, yes, you're not wrong, Checo, but it doesn't count. Sam, I'm surprised you didn't go to this. This is a genre of comedy, niche genre, but a genre of comedy that you really enjoy, which was Sergio Perez was handed a 5-second penalty, and it cut to Checo's dad. And this will only work on YouTube, but he just went, okay.
I
Like a little eye roll.
love camera cut to pairing so much.
Checo's dad was just like, God, this crap again. All right,
World
then.
champion, is it?
Yeah. Norris and Verstappen, obviously. Perez and Lawson. Perez and Stroll. There's no penalty there, apparently.
No, doesn't exist there.
All of these I loved, but George Russell back at it again with the team radio. One was the rain when there was clearly no rain, so I think it might well have been sweat again, George. And then the other one was when he was informed about Verstappen's penalties. And he was just like, wow,
Wow.
Turns into Owen Wilson. Great.
Wow.
It's just wow. Okay. Yeah, some excellent moments from this race. I enjoyed all of them.
All of it.
Yes, there's not too much left for me to say, but I do have 2 bits of team radio that I enjoyed. We've obviously already spoken about Perez calling Liam Lawson an idiot, but in the same team radio, I've just found it really funny that he went, "Is he okay?"
Are you
that's
well?
more insulting than calling someone an idiot. Is asking whether
You're
they
right.
are mentally okay.
You're right, mate.
The other one was GP to Max Verstappen when he was telling him about his penalty, just going, for info.
There's another one.
I bet he was dreading doing that message so much.
Yeah.
That whole exchange with GP and Max is great. The whole quite impressive. There's a lot of whinging. And by the way, you've got another one.
Got another one.
We have got a lot of Discord submissions to go through. There have been many today, so we're not going to be able to get through all of them. Thank you to all of those that have put in your submissions. If you're a first timer, if you're not a first timer and you're not getting played today, don't you worry. There are plenty of opportunities still to come in this season. Harry, who've we got first?
First up, we have Cronenberg. If I can find them on the list. Here we go. Right.
Okay.
Got him. Cronenberg is first.
Cronenberg here, live from my living room. I gotta say, my moment of the race is probably that double dose of not DRS, but dirty driving from Max. That was wild. I thought he was literally trying to take Lando's life. Some wonderful shout outs. Did you guys hear Brundle telling Leclerc that he's complaining about first world problems because he can't stop drinking his water when he's warming his tires?
Yeah.
I'm drowning. Help.
Literal drowning.
Moment of the race.
Also, Sergio, bud, come on. Anyways,
Yeah.
keep bringing late, boys.
Forgot drowning Leclerc.
I forgot Leclerc being waterboarded was a thing.
That's why I didn't wing.
By warming his tyres.
Go on.
Next up is Brown 30.
Hey guys, Brown 30. My moment of the race was when JP told Max Verstappen he was given a 20-second penalty, and Verstappen's response was impressive. Also, a shout out to Haas for a double points finish. That was impressive. You guys are awesome as always, and join the Discord.
Thank you very much. 8 points going Haas's way today, and of course, RB picking up none. Another good result for them.
Mojo Dojo Casa House is next.
Well, late breakers. My moment of the race is Carlos Sainz race. He absolutely made very little mistakes. Yes, he might have lost a lead at the beginning, but he quickly recovered it and never looked back. Congrats to Ferrari. Keep breaking late, guys. MDCH out. Bye.
I like that. He shortened it MDCH. It's a
Careful
very,
to say it, don't go.
it's a very Ben move, that.
Reeks of Ben.
Reeks of Ben Hockin. Right, next one. This one is their name and not a statement from me. But this is Ed Sheeran is hot.
My moment of the race is when Checo didn't make it into his grid box, and then when he got damage, and then when he passed Joe for last place, and then when he pitted for the fastest lap and didn't get it.
Oof.
Kirsty, little thing for you here. Can you just edit what Harry said there so it makes it sound like he said, this is a statement from me, Ed Sheeran is hot, please?
Well, you just said it as well, you freaking moron.
Yeah.
I've got no issue with it. I'm not embarrassed. I'm not ashamed.
Ben, you say as well, make it a comedy triple.
Ed Sheeran is an ugly. No, he's lovely.
Okay, good. Next up is Ferrari strategy team, who very kindly sent a submission in.
Ciao.
This is Ferrari strategy team. Long time listener, first time submitter. My moment of the race is Charles Leclerc almost giving me a heart attack when he almost threw it in the wall at the last turn. But thank you, Ferrari, for giving me a shred of hope that we might actually win the Constructors Championship.
Yeah, that's probably how the strategy team would have reacted.
I imagine he's watching him go in the water and gone, God, please no, Charles. I'll give you a shred of hope.
I need some hope. Fisher is next.
This is Fish, and my moment of the race was when the graphic came on screen that said outstanding penalty, 20 seconds for Max Verstappen, because it was definitely outstanding, but it was also outstandingly egregious.
Egregious. Great word.
Yeah.
Love
Doesn't
that.
get enough love, egregious, on this podcast.
Underrated word.
Yeah.
He's like the Carlos Sainz of words. Chickles LeGiggles is next.
Checo blaming absolutely anyone but himself.
Sure.
Oh, that's it. Is that it?
That does
Cool.
count.
All right, good.
Norm. He is back. Norm from Texas. Here we go.
Oh, hello, my lake-breaking friends from across Lay Big Wet. It is I, Norm from Texas, and I'm here to give my moment of the race, and my moment of the race was the FIA actually having a pot of coffee, taking the time to watch a video, and making a decision and not, waffling back and forth like you've been doing all season. Anyway, way to go. Gold star there, guys. Anyway, keep breaking late.
The drama that he delivers every time.
I like the idea that the incidents happen and someone's like, someone, get the kettle on. We're going to sit down.
We got business to attend to.
Someone waving their mug like, I'll have one.
Yeah. Anyone, what am I going? We got some stuff to
around.
review. That's why it takes so long every time.
Gotta make 20 teas.
Good. Cheers, Norm. Spicy pastry is next.
Hey, boys, spicy pastry. My moment of the race is the youthful optimism of the commentators, constantly thinking that the gaps that can be closed up just absolutely can't. 6 seconds in 2 laps?
Yeah, what
Mate, what are you guys smoking?
Yes. Thank you for pointing this out.
So
When he got past Norris, he's got past Leclerc, and they're like, "Oof, there's about 6 second gap with 4 laps to go. I wonder if we can close it down." I'm like, no.
Are you insane? Are you trying to really build this hype?
Come on, you're better than that. Thank you, Spicy Pastry. Hazard is next.
Oh.
All right, geezers. My moment of the race has probably got to be Sergio Perez and Liam Lawson having a bit of a spicy battle up and towards turn 2. It's a bit like an FA Cup third round tie. You got Premier League and League 2. They've got no right to be on the same pitch, but yet here we are. It's all entertainment. Jorginho, what was your moment of the race?
Cheers, Javier. My moment of the race has got to be Perez starting a mile out of his grid box, trying to make Harry's ball predictions come correct.
Cheers, boys.
Cheers, Javier.
I love that Jorginho and Javier could play for say Premier League or League 2 team in an FA Cup third round tie.
Sensational as ever. Finally, last but very much not least, is Joy.
Well, don't you know the handsome fella will always be my moment of the race.
Well,
Him and his rain on his visor always gets me.
What?
For reference, Sam on stream asked what a Midwestern accent sounds like, so I told him I'd do it in a submission. So I just tried imitating my mom
When are you
and all
starting?
the other Wisconsin moms.
Wow, I didn't expect that. There you go.
That sounded Irish, no? Am I just being mad?
I'm not going to do an Irish accent.
No one, no more accents.
Ever.
You could attach that to any nationality, and I think it would insult them.
Yeah, okay, let's thank you, everyone. Let's get out of here before Sam does his Charles Leclerc impression.
He's like a cupboard. It's fine.
He's in Texas.
That wasn't us. Shush.
The Airbnb's so confused.
I think everyone's so confused right now. It is probably a good idea to get us out of it, Sam.
Folks, thanks for listening. Let us know your thoughts on the Mexican GP. Were the penalties correct? Did Lando and Max race cleanly, or was it just abhorrent behaviour? Sergio Perez, has he got a drive? Who knows? Let us know your thoughts. You can do that in the Discord, or you can come and chat to us on Patreon, where you'll also get power rankings. We'll be going through power rankings tomorrow and posting those. Everything on Patreon is ad-free. You get loads of bonus content as well every single month. So plenty to join in with. Go check it out. It's the best way to support us on this show. For us on social media, Late Breaking F1, you can also watch everything we've recorded on YouTube, Late Breaking F1, and we'll, of course, be back midweek. Ben, is that another cheeky little preview?
Oh, go on then.
Oh, and
another
little triple header just for you. Yeah, we'll be back for the Brazilian preview, of course. And then throughout the weekend, we'll have qualifying sprint reviews, race reviews again. Loads coming up for you, so don't go anywhere. In the meantime.
Sprint?
Yes. It's a sprint race. Sorry about that, mate.
Good.
Some vibes just drop off the bloody cliff face at the end. Right. In the
Sorry about that.
I've been Samuel Sage.
I've been Ben Hocking.
Well, I've been depressed.
Oh, was it?
Remember. Keep breaking late.
Now he's got tongue out.
Ed Sheeran is hot.